Hi, so this is St Audries. We've just arrived in the car park. I'll put a small map up in the corner for you so you know where to turn off. There's a big white and black house, you can't miss it. Just come through Doniford and keep following the road and it takes you to that building. But anyway, here we are in the car park. It's quite spacious, as you can see. It's not too bad at all. There's a parking machine over here. It takes card and cash. And there's also a small toilet block just behind it. It's an e-registration type thing. There are cameras here, and it's £4 whether you're here for 5 minutes or all day. So as far as fishing goes, it's not too bad. Anyway, with the car park, we just walk out this way, and we'll head on down to the beach. It's this turn in here. Just going to cut off and then we'll reconnect on the beach. So this is the beginning of St Audries Beach, and we'll start here. During seriously rough weather, unless it's a north wind, you can shelter in here, which I've done with my father a few times when he comes over in the winter. You can sit in here of an evening, have your rods rested up there, which is quite pleasant, and you can just fire it out, and we normally fire it out over onto the bit of the reef system there. So as you can see, you've got reef system all along here. I find on the sand bit over there you don't catch anything. You can go over onto the point in the distance there, but the tides will cut you off and you'll be pushed up against the rocks. Not sure if you can see at the base there, the weed line. Only on the smallest tides can you go there. I'd recommend going there with a guide if you do. But all the reef keeps coming up this way, so you can fire it out straight, and generally speaking you get your leads back. So over here, this is the main part of the fishing. As I say, during rough weather we fish up here. You've got the main steps just down here, so if you do need to go and get a fish, you can get it in. Be careful of the rock walls here. They're always falling, and you'll see as we go around there's trees precariously on the edge. So these are the main steps. They're not too bad, they're all solid. They can get a bit slippy in wet weather, so if you don't have good footing on, just beware. But as you can see here, all along the cliff faces here, they're constantly falling. That's a big one over there that's obviously recently come down. Wouldn't bother coming here during the days or the weekends. You get a lot of surfers and swimmers, and generally speaking people from the holiday park down here on the beach, so you'll have a lot of dog walkers as well, and you won't be left alone. The only bit the surfers can go on is on this reefy bit, which is where you want to be fishing, and it's because it's the only place with the waves that come in. It's all flat over here, so we'll just walk out on this anyway. So generally speaking, the fish that I always fish for here is bass. They tend to come up these channels. The only other thing I've really had from this part of the beach is green eels and congers as well. So it's not to say you can't get other things obviously, but conger, green eel and bass are the three most predominant ones that I find here. As you can see, it can get weedy, so sometimes with a heavy sort of like northwest wind here, you can get weeded out. It gets quite heavy. So like I say, over there it's pretty featureless. There's nothing there, and generally speaking I've never really caught over there. On the point you can catch, especially during the summer. You get some nice hounds off the end and whatnot. But with that, we'll take a walk over here and we'll look at the reef system a little bit more. So that's the waterfall. As the tide comes in, the tide does come up over there and it will cut you off. So if you're on that side, you will be cut off from this side should you come down these steps. There are more steps, but they're right further over the other side. Let's try and block some of this wind. Not particularly friendly today. Wind just lately around here has been an absolute nightmare. So A lot of fishermen at low tide fish this up to high. They start on these ridges and they fish on the edges of these ridges. As they fill up, generally speaking, they sit on the outside one there and they cast out into the beach. I mean, by the time you get down the end there, you're casting from the main beach maybe around maybe about 350 yards, 400, something like that. So you're getting good distance, especially if you want to leave a bait to soak. I don't generally fish this side because of the waterfall that's always here. You get a lot of fresh water dump. It's probably why you end up with the green eels, the bass and congers along that side. There's not a lot else I find, but these ridges do produce. They're quite deep. They're about 6 foot up on the ledge. There's Danny down there. He's 4.5 foot, something like that. That's a lot taller than him. So anyway, we'll drop down one of these in a second. But these channels, they fill up quick, so make sure you're ready when the tide does come in. Alright, let's go down this one. So when myself and Danny come, this is generally where we start. We catch the tide sort of halfway in, and we generally fish from up here. It's very comfortable. You've got a decent landing platform should you get anything big. You can get double figure eels here. Out here you get flat rats or thornbacks if you're not local. So you get everything out here really. You get the pouting, you get the whiting, like I say, thornback, eel, bass again. Over winter, in years gone by, it has thrown out some nice double figure cod. Haven't heard of one anytime recently, mind. So when fishing from the top there, I always tend to fish heavy. There's massive banks of weed out here. If you end up in one of them, you're going to end up pulling out of it or losing your gear, one of the two. So for me, this is more of a summer venue. This is when I generally fish it. So it's pretty quiet today. There's only a few people on the beach, which makes a change, but generally speaking, even in grotty weather, there's a lot of people on this beach at all times. So another good place that I like to fish as we start going along here is on the main part of the beach. And caught upwind, sorry about that. So like I say, I fish up here. When the tide's right in, I'll come along this side, and I always say to people when I take them out and whatnot, you need to stay a safe distance away from the cliffs. Those that don't know, safe distance is roughly the height of the cliffs away from the bottom. So if they're 8 foot, stay at least 80 foot away from them. Gives you a good rule of thumb. Anyway, I sit at the top over here and I fish the edge of these ridges here. I have one in them and one just off them down here on this mixed sand and reef. You can pick up good eels. My father, a good number of years ago now, had a 15-pound eel from here, and it took a single sand eel on a size 2, so that was fun for him. But you can pick up bass quite regularly along this bit here, I find, if you're fishing for them. Running ledge or a paternoster doesn't normally see you wrong. And then it does generally produce good fishing during the summer. I never have much luck myself here during the winter. It's not to say it doesn't produce, but I don't bother coming here in the winter anymore. I find there's far more productive marks locally. Right, so we're just going to take a little walk round onto the beach, and then I'll turn the camera back on. So this is the next spot that I like to fish from. We're only about 70 yards maybe from the edge of the ridges over there. This is the edge of the reef system as it hits the sand. As you can see, there's a big rock slide there, so again, exercise caution when setting up. But it comes onto this. It's rippled sand, so you can see there's a fair bit of current that comes over it, and you can see the ground is obviously mixed in with it with all this black sort of mineralized stuff on it. So I find if you fish the edge here and it goes out to the edge of the reef there, the sand, it probably meets it from where you're fishing. It's going to be about 90 yards out. So again, you've got the weed banks further out, 100, 110 plus. So if you're not a big distance caster, don't worry about that. But along here, I find it's really good for conger and thornback specifically. You will find other rays here too. I've had small-eyed off here, but generally speaking, I find the flat rats along here. So we'll keep walking along. Actually, some of you might recognise this beach because I know that Graham, out of Totally Awesome Fishing, quite often stays in a holiday park, which is down here, and does some of his fishing down here. So anyway, I'm going to walk along to the next bit. I'll give you references from there. Oh, also, if you're really lucky, sometimes here, up in the top corner over there, you'll see some peregrine falcons that nest up there. So, if you're into that sort of thing, then they're always out in the summer. You'll see them, well, you'll hear them before you see them. They're quite noisy. Anyway, I'm just going to cut off, walk to the next part, and we'll start again. So here we are. As you come out onto the sand now, you'll still see the ripples and everything from the water course, and you'll also see worm casts everywhere. Generally speaking, it's lugworm. It's not really worth digging unless you're back by the what's it called, the slate ridges and whatnot, the reef system. So you don't find anything massive here, but it is lug. There are a few patches of rag, but again, nothing of significance. It's mainly sort of like small maddies or harbour rag light. So worm can be killer along here. It's probably one of the preferred baits. My second one would be sand eel. Find I'll pick up more with that. So let's head out towards these weed banks just to give you guys an idea. There's also a lot of clay out here. So if you are thinking of doing anything like a walk back technique, where you start out here and then sort of like walk back with your lines out, it can produce goods, but you can also I'd advise using a rotten bottom because sometimes it'll sink into the clay, which can be a pain. Anyway, so here we are. You can see there's a start to change of colour. You're getting the odd bits of clay, and there's a lot of bladder rack out here. Just see if I can get here without sinking into all of this. Oh no, okay, we're going into clay. So as you can see, feet starting to sink. Luckily these are old boots, it doesn't matter. But as you can see, it gets real boggy real quickly. So there's massive patches of basically bladder rack like this. It looks like solid reef, but not all of it is. Some of it's just like clay. As soon as you tread on it, like just there, your foot disappears and you're stuck in it. So anyway, fishing out on the edge of this can be really good. I've had quite a few bass from here, and I've also had quite a few like alright congers, all double figure. But another good bit is anywhere along the main beach here, if you set up just beyond the stones, throw out a rod in close. On the edge of the stones where it meets the sands, you'll find a lot of fish travel along there. I've had quite a few rays in close, generally smaller rays, but I tend to use sort of like a size 1 hook in close. It's more like a sort of scratching rig. So if you use a size 1, and on the other hook I normally use a size 6, it's a Wessex that I use, I just throw that in close, and you'll pick up small ray and lots of other sort of like smaller fish, but they all travel along here feeding. Occasionally you get a nice surprise with a bigger bass or something. So here is the next mark that I like to fish here, especially in the summer. This bit, oh, I know a few locals, but not everybody calls it St Audries Cauldron. If you look at it, it creates a bit of a bowl. It sort of sinks down straight in front of us there. Let's see if I can zoom in on that for you. Straight there, and it goes all the way across it's sort of encircled by the reef system. I can't get too close because I ain't got my like proper sloppy boots on. But all of these, what look like ridges in front, are not actually ridges. It's just bits of soft clay. So we'll go up to the edge of the sand so you can get a better view. But there's lots of like holding pools in close here as well. And this is really good, I find, in the summer for hounds. If you like a large hound, it's definitely worth coming here for a double figure hound. So there you go, you've got all the clay mixed in with the reef and everything, but like I say, you go near it, you sink down a foot straight away. But just out there, it's weedy, so rig heavy. You'll find some nice thornbacks out there, and you definitely get some good conger along here as well, and huss. It's worth fishing. It's not always mega productive, but you can get nice fish out of it. So, oh, it's starting to get a bit softer. Okay, so this is it. And at the moment, from where you would be on the beach, this is going to be a good 100-yard cast. Okay, over there is the old walkway. It looks absolutely decimated from the storms this winter. I don't know whether it's in use or not. I know it used to be with the caravan park, but I'm pretty sure it's disused these days. I'll find out and put it in the comments regardless. So we're coming up to the end of St Audries now. Over here is the last place that I fish. I don't often come here, but I've had some nice hounds off there. I've had some nice eels off there, and it's just at the end of the beach. I'll just pan out in a second. But this is one beach that suffers with a lot of freshwater dump. There's outlets all along it, so if there's been heavy rainfalls, I personally don't bother. You can see mine head over in the distance over there. But as I say, this is more of a venue I find for the later evening in the summers and going into darkness. Darkness always produces better here, as it does on many beaches, but there's always a lot of people down here. You get walkers, dog walkers, swimmers, surfers, you name it, and they're down here. Even though it's a big beach, they always come to where you're fishing, so you've been warned. But night fishing, quite pleasurable. You're left alone, not many people about. I like this part of the beach because of the high banks and the access. You're not going to come to any real danger here, so you come down the access path and you set up just along the bank here. You can see where the weed, so you see where the weed is up there on the black line. It comes up to there. We'll come up close, so it's not advisable in rough weather, but like I say, it's quite comfortable. Fish up there, cast out here, or cast one diagonally over towards all this rock stuff. If you come down during the day, you can do particularly well if you bury a milk bottle full of old baits that have all been blended up and whatnot. It's always it pulls fish in from this heavy reef system over here. You don't want to cast into the reef system. Even with rotten bottoms, it'll hook you up. This is why I tend to use the mustard uptide Vikings for places like this. Use a 3.0 and everything, and you rig heavy, it'll bend out. Then you just need to replace your hook instead of losing your rig, leader, lead, and everything else that goes with it. So beyond St Audries over here, you can get cut off. Again, you can be pushed up against the cliff face all along here on larger tides, especially with rough weather. So I wouldn't advise coming here on your own if you don't normally fish it. Again, you can look up local guides. There's myself, Martin Wood, qualified with the Angling Trust, and Craig Butler, who's also qualified with the Angling Trust. And then there's Andy Bowra, who's a full-time guide around here and generally a nice guy. So all three will get you results. All three will keep you safe. Anyway, so there you go. You can see the cauldron a little bit better now. It's all shiny. It's just shiny clay. It's not actually got any water on it at the present. The tide goes right out here. So what you can do is set your rods up on the edge of the clay, which is just on the end of this shiny bit right in front of us here. If I can just, that bit, set up on the edge of that, cast your rods out as far as you can go, fish in that pool, or sometimes what I'll do is I'll fire out a massive bait, leave it there, but leave a rotten bottom on it, because if it sinks, you're going to know about it and you'll lose your gear. But yeah, leave it out there and then just walk back. Every time you move back, just undo the clutch, let the line out, and you'll end up fishing on this stone and gravel. As I say, again, all along here, this stone gravel line, it does produce fish. So this is St Audries, as I say, a venue to exercise caution with, but it can be really good. I find it's either really good or really not good. I find it's one or the other. I can't find any rhyme or reason to this. Even though I keep my fishing logs, it's yeah, it doesn't seem to have rhyme or reason, or winds that favour. It's just one of those. They're either here or they're not. Anyway, this is St Audries.